Whether you're a parent navigating the path of co-parenting or just curious to know about how to make it work, this episode is for you. Hello everybody, welcome to a new episode of Women Talk. I'm Nadia, Azmi. Thank you for joining us. Now I want to start with a powerful statement for this episode. Major life events are what shape us into becoming resilient human beings. And today in particular, those life events that we will be talking about is life after divorce and, for those who have kids, co-parenting. Now, sadly, statistics show that divorce rates are on the rise. It's become a reality for many families in Malaysia, and it's still something perhaps that we don't talk openly enough about. So let's start doing that today by having that conversation on Women Talk. We have two special guests to talk about the modern family, life after divorce and co-parenting. With me on my left is Sabrina Jasman, digital creator. If you see her on social media by the handle of Utterly Savvy, that is her, and also a senior business analyst. That is your day job that you have as well. Welcome, Sabrina, to Women Talk. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and next to Sabrina, we have Nur Hazlin Nur Salam, a family constellation therapist, as well as she's a filmmaker and educator. Welcome, Hazlin, to Women Talk.
Thank you.
All right. Now, first of all, I did introduce Hazlin as a family constellation therapist. I think maybe many of us, those who are watching, this is the first time that they've heard of such a profession. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do as a family constellation therapist?
So what we do is when we work with clients, we look into some of the traumas that is not easily spoken or not easily expressed.
Yeah.
So some of these hidden grievances is what we'll be able to observe during a session.
Yeah.
In family constellation therapy, it is believed that that every family unit, every relationship, it is almost like a system.
Right.
Yeah. And then this system is a lot of times relational, and what we are experiencing perhaps maybe is something that our parents have experienced. Right. So sometimes we would realize that we are carrying some of these repeated patterns that's not even ours. That's probably our parents.
We're continuing a cycle that we had gone through. So as a therapist, you help families rebuild their lives after divorce, right? And I think, although yes, you're a therapist and we have a senior business analyst here, but what's noteworthy to say to the audience is that you both are also co-parents. You both are divorced. Sabrina has remarried, and inshallah you as well, Hazlin, yes. So you're navigating that path, and I join in the same boat as well in terms of co-parenting. I've been divorced as well, so I think we share maybe similar stories. We'll find out. Sabrina, what is your story, your journey so far, if you can tell us? I know some people have seen it on social media, but they want to hear it from you on Women Talk as well.
Well, starting off life after divorce, right? We dealt with so many emotions and whatnot. So having the feelings of guilt is there's a lot of guilt, I have faced, and mainly towards our son, mainly towards my son, right? Because thinking that he deserves better, he deserves more and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think that's the hard point, and what Hazi mentioned just now, dealing with traumas. So for me, navigating through it and trying to minimize the future traumas of my son, right? So I think that's what's happening in my mind.
Yes,
going a lot.
That guilt, of course, is not just experienced by you, Sabrina. I think every parent who goes through a divorce, naturally, that's the first emotion that they will feel. That guilt of not being able to provide a complete family for their kids. What do you usually tell the people that you meet, the people that you give therapy towards, Hazlin, when they have to take on the roles as mom and dad at the same time? It's a struggle. It's not easy. It requires a lot of planning and an emotional and mental stability. How can they cope with that?
Yeah.
especially in the early stages of divorce?
First of all, like in every marriage, divorce is not planned.
course.
Nobody wants to be divorced.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when it happens, it's because both parties have already upped all kinds of effort to make it work. And when we talk about shame and guilt, these are like, as I've mentioned earlier, not just traumas, but griefs. Griefs that it is hard for us to process. And so when it comes to moving on with this new chapter of our life, it is important to really go back to ourselves. Because, of course, in such a situation, post-divorce, it's so easy to play the blame game, to play the victim game, for example. It is a very, like, a common leitmotif that almost every post-couples would have experienced. So I think from what I've observed so far, that a lot of times it is best to look back into ourselves. And I think the process of healing is a lonely process, but it also takes courage. You will, in my experience working with divorced clients, it is sometimes there are some blindsided pain or traumas that it's hard to articulate. And so these are some of the phases that family constellation will take the clients through to be able to see the setup of what is it that exactly is the root cause or the hidden underlying pain that needs to be seen. Because in family constellation we believe that in its principle there is in every family unit there's a thing that we call the orders of love and hierarchy, where everybody in a family needs to be included, wants to be seen, wants to be a part of the system.
So these are the common emotional struggles that people face after divorce. How did you cope with that, Sabrina? You've been co-parenting for how many years?
Almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years now.
Yeah.
So how did you cope with that guilt, that shame, and maybe depression for some of us?
Yes, I've been through those stages, depression as well. But you know, at some point, I started to think that I need to do better. So having a real communication with my son's father really helps, especially when both of us are on the same page, right? And keeping things transparent with my child at that time. From the beginning, I always told my son, like, this is what happened, this is what is going to be, what he can anticipate in the future, for example. So in the context that he would understand. So instead of ignoring it altogether, the hard situation that my son could face, right? So and also lastly, I think just putting our personal feelings aside. When it comes to our son, it could be like you said,
maybe not 100%, but a little bit to the side.
To the side, like sometimes it will be like all the egos, as you mentioned just now. Also egos and anger, probably jealousy, all those feelings. But it has to stop when it comes to our child, right? And definitely there will be always disagreements, right? But surely we have to quickly resolve it, for the sake of our child.
We will talk more about the acceptance, not just within the family, but within the society as well when we come back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Women Talk. You're still with me, Nadia, Azmi, and we're talking about life after divorce and the truth or reality on co-parenting. I have two guests that we are talking to today for this conversation, and I think with a platform like this on Women Talk and with guests like yourselves, with strong female figures like yourselves, I think people will become more comfortable to talk about it more openly. But it's important, after all that emotional struggle that we talked about in the first segment, we address that, we deal with that. But also the next step is to reclaim your identity. Despite what the society thinks about us, despite what our family thinks about us, the negative perceptions that is, we need to reclaim our identity and rebuild our lives. So, Sabrina, you show on social media how you have managed to rebuild your career, you're remarried, and you show people your daily routines.
I was actually kind of dumbstruck when I posted my videos on social media. I never expect that, people would give such a, would give such an impact, to my videos would give such an impact to the society, and I find it interesting because once I posted it on social media, there were lots of views and lots of
positive
feedbacks, and majority of it positive feedbacks.
Okay.
Some of it would say like, oh, how refreshing it is to see such a healthy and positive co-parenting dynamic, and some would say like how their parents are co-parenting as well, and that they turn out fine, which it gives me such a relief as well. And also some would share that, oh, how I wish my parents would co-parent,
in that manner,
adopt this co-parenting style. So either way, the responses have been overwhelming. I think
you're an inspiration because you show women how actually it's possible. It's not impossible to have a good life after co-parenting and to reclaim your identity, essentially. Hazlin, on social media, we see a lot of stories, like Sabrina's story, being told out there. People are being very candid about life after divorce, about co-parenting. Do you think it has helped shape how dynamic a family still can be after divorce? People like to label it as broken homes. Personally, I don't like to term it that way. It's not a broken home.
No.
It's a fully functional home, a healthy home that can still work if we put the effort in.
I think it has been a great evolution when it comes to portraying or giving a clear representation of what modern family should look like, because we don't know how it would work. Because most of us, at least, we're so bound by the traditional way of building a family. So I think with the impact of social media, such as yourself, who has the courage to be able to speak out and actually tell stories, personal stories, and you're sharing your journeys to other women out there, that has been, of course, helpful for many. And I think it's all about us being able to see that this can be normalized, that the setup of a modern family can be accepted. Because at the end of the day, when decisions are being made to break a marriage, it is coming from a place of love. Whether we want to accept it or deny it, blah, blah, blah. But it is coming from a place of love. Some of us discover that we love ourselves more, or that there is a need to love ourselves enough to be able to let this go, for example.
We discover revelations about ourselves after divorce, so there is that silver lining. But as you've mentioned, people don't get married to get divorced. Nobody wants that, but sometimes it is the inevitable. How did you cope yourself? Apart from you being a therapist, you yourself, you've been co-parenting for 4 years as well, similar to Sabrina's story. How have you dealt with the challenges?
Tough. I will not deny it's been a challenge, obviously. But I think what helped the most was other women, other supportive, inspiring women out there who didn't let me on my own. Like, for example, my family constellation coach, teacher, mentor, she really helped me. Her name is Monica Wise. She was the one who actually mentored me in the process of becoming a therapist. But and what was helpful were these support system that we need. Sometimes, because I am the type that would isolate myself when I am, in a sort of trouble situation. But I think allowing myself to reach out for help with other women out there, that's I think been the most helpful thing.
The support system is important, and I think the pictures that we've been illustrating are rosy pictures on life after divorce and co-parenting, but as you mentioned, there are a lot of challenges. After this break, we'll be right back. We're back back on Women Talk, talking about life after divorce and co-parenting. So with my two guests, we've talked about how it's about emotional management. That's a big part of a life after divorce, but it also involves a lot of logistics and careful planning, especially when you have kids. We talked about the challenges earlier, Hazlin and Sabrina. It's not always an easy journey, of course, the navigation of co-parenting. So when we have to deal with ex-spouses who do not make good co-parents, so maybe most of the burden is on us, it's very difficult to get their cooperation. How do we navigate that kind of situation?
I think most importantly is to really be practical about situation and finding the best way to put our emotions aside, which is not an easy thing to do. But I think this is where priority comes into play. Our priority is always the children. And so even if a situation would lead us to feel hurt or pain, whatever that decision entails, I think most importantly is that these are the two factors. Allowing ourselves to put our emotions aside, being practical about the situation, and prioritize the children.
Are not able to achieve that level of maturity as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think it's managing expectations, perhaps.
Sometimes I think it's okay to like scream it out.
Yeah,
this needs to happen.
Yeah,
you know, it's okay. I think a lot of us are afraid of our own, the word rage or anger.
Right.
Because I think we should allow ourselves to feel angry.
Let it out.
Let it out. So if whatever that our say co-parent is not being helpful or not being cooperative, then if you need to raise your voice, you raise your voice. You know what I'm saying?
And you let your spouse or ex-spouse know, you know, what needs to be done.
But I think most importantly is to be strategic and smart about it. You know, I think as women, we know.
Sometimes our emotions get the better of us,
of course,
and we overlook that aspect. Yeah. How do you, Sabrina, meet in the middle with your ex-husband? You know, how do you co-parent successfully, or you know, to the best that you can?
Okay, so I think to come to that, we have few approaches that I'm still practicing until today. The first one is definitely maintain regular communication with the ex-husband, and you know, to share everything about the son. You know, like the character development, what his current interest is, you know, what his current favorite cartoon is, you know, all those things. We have to communicate it together.
You still have to be friends.
Yes,
right?
We have to be friends in that dynamic, because then only it able to move forward. And also the next one is definitely having to have a proper conversation on the routine. I think it's very important as well, right? If co-parenting, the routine is crucial, because some co-parent would prefer a very structured routine plan. You know, you take this month, you take this month probably. But me personally, my approach is very flexible in a way that because of the ex-husband's work shift hours, right? So I have to adapt to that as well.
Can't be too rigid.
We cannot to be rigid. It's very hard. If you be too rigid, it's going to put you so much stress.
Yeah, I'm sure you have your own schedule, and your ex-partner has his own schedule. So how do you manage both of your schedules and also your son's schedules? And you know, when there are conflicts, how do you resolve them? How do you share that responsibility?
Yeah, so basically we really have to draw it down. Like for him, he will share his schedule for the month. Okay, this day I will be off, for example. Then I will say, okay, probably these few days he'll be with you and whatnot. So I think the proper plan would at least have to be in place at the beginning, right? And also all those finances, expenses, responsibilities that has to be drawn out. It has to be clear. It has to be clear at the starting point, right? For example, like all the school fees, all the books.
It is very important, simply because at the end of the day, the children needs to be reminded again and again that they are loved.
Yeah.
And that they're not the one that is to be blamed for the breakup. You know, a lot of times children will take it on upon themselves and felt like, oh, just because of me, mom and dad's not together, blah, blah, blah. these are the kind of issues that I think, at least for me as a mom, it's something that I am very sensitive about. So then whenever there are frictions, because friction do happen post-divorce, so this is where the communication between mother and child, father and children needs to happen. And sometimes like my ex and I are civil, you know, so there are times when there are friction between my daughter and him. I do communicate to him, hey, this has happened, why don't you? And similarly with me as well. So I think this kind of check and balance is helpful.
Right.
But I think to be able to get to that phase is we ourselves, we have to manage our own expectation, and to be able to really look into our own pain and really see that it's there, but we're now moving on into a new venture.
Can I have words of advice and words of wisdom from the both of you to our viewers of Women Talk? Sabrina, you first.
I guess that, you know, when you go into being a co-parent, you have to learn lots of compromise. You have to compromise here and there. That's a keyword, I guess. And be flexible, because, you know, it's very hard on the child as itself, and it's even harder for the parents, because this is our first time too, right? Going through it. So it's not all rainbows, you know, not that I figured it all out, you know, it's very hard.
It takes time.
It takes time.
Azmi?
I think we have made the choice to venture into the road that is less traveled. So because of that, this is a journey that requires courage and also self-belief. And I think it is important to come back and reconcile with the parts of ourselves that we have lost along the way, and rediscovering new versions of ourselves that we don't know what impact we have for society, our communities, men and women out there, as well as children. So it is okay to be alone. It's okay to be on your own. It is okay to be misunderstood.
But seek help from those around you. Thank you very much to Haslin and Sabrina for this very insightful conversation. I'm sure the two of you are, you know, being an inspiration to those out there watching us on Women Talk. Now, co-parenting after divorce is not easy. It has its challenges, but it is possible with the right mindset and, of course, a good support system. So it takes also emotional maturity, patience, and, as the both of you emphasized, a lot of love to give to our kids post-divorce, and remember to take care of yourselves as well. Thank you again to our guests. We'll see you in a new episode for Women Talk next week. Have a good weekend, everyone.